In April 2020, crude oil prices were at $19 a barrel. They're now at roughly $65 a barrel. And just over the past few days, the taxes being levied on fuel have been increased as well. I'll give you an example. The central government's excise duty on petrol at the beginning of 2020 was 19.98, almost 20 rupees. It's now been increased to 32.90, that's 33 rupees. Whereas on diesel, at the beginning of the year, the excise duty was 15.83, that's now up to 31.80. When international prices are rising, is the government taking citizens for granted just because the middle class isn't opposing, isn't out on the streets, isn't creating a shindy in the way that they did when Manmohan Singh was in government? Can the central government just get away by increasing prices any which way they want? When is the time when citizens will rise and say enough is enough? You may need resources to run the government, but there's a limit to how much you can squeeze out of us. Joining us on the news track, I want to welcome first and foremost Narendra Taneja. Apart from being a BJP spokesperson, he's also one of our top experts on international energy, crude oil, and therefore I thought he'd be a good fit for this discussion. Squaring off against him, Supriya Shrinate, who again has a good understanding of economic issues and also fuel pricing. For two contrarian perspectives, I'm joined by Professor Arun Kumar. He's taught economics at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, and squaring off against him is Sanjeev Ahluwalia from the Observer Research Foundation, because there is another theory in circles of those who support the government. This is actually wise, that they want us to pay more, because if you feel the pinch, you will move faster towards clean energy, towards electric vehicles, and therefore it's all right, so that your next car is per force an EV and not a diesel or fuel or a petrol car. So that said, let's get started. Narendra Taneja, if Manmohan Singh was in government and you were in opposition, by now you'd be burning his effigies every single day. You'd have national jams and buns and hartals and say this is not okay. You are taking the middle class for granted, that you're increasing tax day after day, and the time has come when the people of India just stand up and say enough is enough. This is not okay. You need to slash taxes.
Well, Rahul, the petroleum sector, like many other strategic sectors, are dynamic. Situation 2021 is very different. The global economy is passing through a very turbulent time. Coronavirus is still there. And we've seen that, majority of economies, including India, one of the fastest growing economy in the world, has also suffered. So therefore, the ground realities are very, very different. The first 3 months of this fiscal year, as you know, that economy was almost had come to complete standstill. The result was the central government as well as the state governments. You see, it's not about Congress or BJP or TMC and all that. Every single government or every single state government, we all suffered. And the result is that, our economic position about the center, for that matter, state governments, including Rajasthan, which is the highest state taxes, is more or less the same. So now the point here is that, when we compare that, let's say the ground realities and fundamentals today and the 2 years back, 3 years back and all that, we can compare, but then the story...
No, you're worried about your finances, and I hear you. What about my finances? What about the finances of every single person who's watching this broadcast? Many have been laid off, salaries some sectors have been cut, some have been restored, but many haven't. So I appreciate your concern for your government's finances. What about our finances, Mr. Taneja?
No, the government, Rahul, government finances, whether at the center of the states, are for the people. I don't say that Rajasthan, which is ruled by Congress, finances are for Mr. Govt. It's for the people. You see, we are talking about finances for the people because here we are talking of the government. But at the same time, not a single welfare scheme concerning those people who are underprivileged or poor, who need support, not a single paisa has been cut. You get petrol and diesel across the country. You get LPG across the country. In fact, while we talk, we are adding more people into that. At the same time, all the welfare schemes, you compared India with Nepal and Pakistan and all, these are not welfare state. Nepal is not a welfare state. They do almost nothing for, that. Pakistan is not a welfare state. Do you want India to be like Nepal?
Okay, let me get opening comments from Supriya Shrinate that the government needs money to spend on welfare schemes, that the welfare allocations across schemes are going up. Yes, it's a pinch on your pocket, but the government's lost revenue as well, and they need to make that up. Supriya Shrinate.
You know, with all due respect to Mr. Taneja, who I have interviewed and have interacted multiple times on fuel economy, I feel sad that on a day like today, when he should be talking real economics, he's forced to defend his party's faulty policy. And I will tell you why. I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry because when he says welfare schemes, he forgets that fuel is inflationary and high inflation impacts the poor the most. This is bad economics. When you have high fuel prices, means vegetable prices will be higher, means prices of transport will be higher. You are impacting the poor the most, sir, is what you forget. So that's the first hole I want to pick in your argument. The second hole I want to pick in your argument, I didn't want to make it political, but because you kept talking about Rajasthan, for your kind information, sir, Rajasthan has just reduced VAT by 2% 2 weeks back, taking a hit of 1,000 crore rupees. The central government is sitting on revenues of states worth 7 lakh crore rupees to the GST. I am not saying that. The Finance Commission in its report has said so. Madhya Pradesh, where, you know, the prices went up, I feel sorry for those chief ministers as well, because no chief minister can actually squeeze revenue right now. They are not getting money from the center. The elbow room to reduce is with the center, and I'll tell you how. When we were in government, the excise duty on diesel was 3.5 rupees per litre. Today, it is at over 32 rupees. When we were in government, it was 9 rupees per litre excise on petrol. Today, it is at over 33. The elbow room is with the government. They've made a windfall gain over the last 24 lakh crore rupees. I want to say just one thing. Mr. Modi said bitter pill. I think the country said, okay, we'll take the bitter pill. But what they forget is that there is a leap of faith that the country took. When you deregulated diesel, or when we deregulated petrol, we said when prices of international crude will go down, people will benefit. That's what happened in our regime. Petrol prices were going down whenever crude fluctuated and went down.
No, so that's an important point you make.
Crude has gone down
Let
to levels
Narendra
of sub
Taneja
$20 a
respond.
barrel.
When crude